Hi, Ben here from Supercoach Insider, giving you my game debrief for the Gold Coast Suns and St Kilda game that was on this evening. Where to start? Marshall is definitely an issue, and for more reasons than one. Now, this is something that Chris was talking to me about as well, flicking between this game and the Sydney game, and then going between different chat groups as well, trying to fill in the blanks. Hard when there's two games of footy on, but we'll do our best to kind of put it all together for you. Now, Marshall was doing well enough, but wasn't really exceeding to the point where people wanted to. So shout out as well to Centre Bounce, who made him captain Marshall, because they're like, hey, Witts was a laid out, which is another huge issue. I think about 1,000 people got stuck bringing him in because they didn't realise that he was a late out. Other people were then like, well, I knew a few people that were lucky enough to just quickly switch to English, like just before the game. So there was a couple very lucky ones. So if you're one of the lucky ones that heard this news and you switched to bring English in, let me know. Otherwise, or if you were quick enough to switch and bring Grundy in instead of Witts, let me know as well, because I think both of those were definitely really good moves for those that do pay attention. And it's hard to pay attention just before games. We're busy, we have lives, we're on Easter weekend, some people are probably away, and camping at a barbecue, and then look and go, oh crap, literally this guy I just brought in is now out. So yeah, I knew a few people with the whole Marshall train. Now this is where it kind of gets a bit interesting. So Marshall did well enough without being too dominant, and he got subbed out of the game. So Saints killed the Suns, and the Suns, I thought it was pretty good early on. The Suns came out with a lot of fire and vigor, but they just got beaten on the outside. And once the switch came, or once they were beaten outside the contest, Saints just had their number. And they were talking about some really good statistics as well. The commentators, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was like 8 of their players can run, I think, 3K times under 10 minutes, which is ridiculous. So once the ball gets on the outside, they're just too quick. So they're going for that whole element of things. Now, the interesting part on how it ties into Marshall is Marshall kind of just goes between the arcs, right? So he'll go straight down the middle of the field, and because that's the quickest way to get from side to side, right? Now, if there's a stoppage or something, rather than they can kind of go and push a little bit towards the wing, but the throw in comes quite deep anyway, or goes side to side that way. Now, how rucks can do well sometimes is that they actually use you maybe as an outlet, or if they want to center the ball, or even you might not be completely on the wing side, but sort of near the center square, but on the closer side of it, and you can get used and linked up, etc. Saints don't want to do that. Saints want to play down the wing. They don't want to go corridor side. They want to literally burn you and take you on and literally leave you for dust on the outside and run the wing. Now, part of that, I think, is probably also to do with the fact that they don't have much tools at the moment in their forward line. So they've got a couple of young players, a supplement sort of person who stood up as well. So Caminiti, and you have your Filippo, and then they don't have the tall timber because they have all these injuries. So why would you kind of go more central to some of the larger targets, or the other ruck as well, who would also be kind of following Marshall around? Why would you want to go through some of the tall timber and the opposition's taller defenders when you can then try and hit those flanks, go through the forward flank sort of area, and try and hit up some of those smaller areas that aren't as dominant by tall defense? And if it does come to ground, then at least you are more agile there, or you can get it out of bounds to then reset and try and pressure up. So I thought it was very interesting that. So what that means is that because they're going around Marshall, they're not using him as much, it's really impacting his scores. So I don't think Marshall's doing anything too badly. But normally he's not. He's kind of like an English or a Grundy type, where he's not specifically the best tap ruckman, but he's someone that usually gets it around the ground. But unlike, say, the Dogs, who would really try and use English and try and link up, I think Saints are kind of going around him a little bit. So that's why he'll go the hundreds, and he'll have a few games where he goes lower, and he has a couple of games that'll spike up the 130s, but he's not going to be that sort of 110 player that we all sort of thought of until King and Membry and a few of these others come back. So if you do want to hold, it looks like back end of the season he'll probably do really well. Maybe when they're back in and things could improve, or maybe they'll just change their strategies a little bit as well. But the problem is Saints are winning. They're 4-0. So why are they going to change that strategy right now? Which is kind of probably another bigger issue as far as Marshall. So, let me know what you've thought and seen for that one. But that's definitely something to consider there. Mitchie Owens just keeps on bopping up, mate. Everyone just disregarding him. 143 Supercoach. I think I could have even got him in drafts, off the waiver. Mate, kudos. And I think he just keeps standing up. 2 goals, 2 again this week. Was it 9 kicks, 18 handballs? So, yeah, didn't even kick it that well. 66% disposal efficiency, but still contested possessions. Did really well in that element there. Welcome back to Jack Sinclair. He'd been quite disappointing for a few bits and bobs this season. A few lower scores, but today he was clinical, took it on, intercept possession, ran, linked up, score assist, like the stuff you knew that he would be able to do previously. And today I think was a real huge step forward for Sinclair. And if you own him, yes, it was only like a 113 odd, but I thought it was very promising that he actually got his run and carry game going a little bit more than previous. On the lower end, so Caminiti kicked 2 goals, 2 goals, 1. I thought he was impressive. He got a 64. So again, keeps on making money. And I keep saying a 30 is going to come at some point, but he gets in the right places. And even that one, Sinclair did link up and take it on and actually gave it off to him running into the forward 50, kicked it from like straight in front, 40 metres out, goal. So 2 goals, 1. When they keep winning games, I don't think it's an issue for Caminiti. So he's making money. And even if he drops a bad score now, that'll be, you'll still be able to ride out that cycle and get rid of him then. So I think it's great if you did start him. I'm jealous. I didn't start him. There's a few rookies that bopped up that I just wish I had. And, they're late bloomers. And by late, I mean, round sort of 3 to 4 where it's harder to know. But kudos to there. Filippo still chipping away, 61. Looked like he was on track for a 75 to 80. Tape it off. And the problem is that when everyone starts scoring around you, particularly, third quarter where they really dominated, if you weren't part of that dominating train, then everyone else's points go up and then you just kind of sit there. And once the game's done, no matter what you do, you're not really, as a forward, you're not really going to get those points. So that's where he kind of sat. I thought he was impressive enough though. I mean, 7 kicks, 11 handballs, 4 tackles. So I thought he did well enough and kicked 1 goal. So 61 Supercoach for 1 goal. Look, I'm not upset with that, to be honest. And he'll chip away and make a little bit of money. But he's someone you could probably definitely look to move on in the next week or two if it does get you a premium sooner. So that's where I kind of sit on the Filippo bandwagon. Now, over to the Suns. Now, apart from Witts being out, which is huge, makes me feel better about getting rid of Witts last week because I would have got rid of him this week anyway. So definitely an interesting sort of scenario on that. Noah Anderson, welcome back, mate. So 25 kicks, 13 handballs, 10 tackles, like absolutely huge game. Huge. Got 134 Supercoach, sorry. That could have been a 170 game. He had 17 contested possessions, 1 goal, 1, 10 tackles, 25 kicks, 13 handballs, 7 clearances, but then kicked at 63% with 5 clangers. And that's pretty much the difference between him going 134 and like 170. Because it was a 170 game if you put it all together. I think he was absolutely dominant and sensational. Tug Miller 122, you can't be too upset. 32 touches, 8 tackles as well. So I thought they tried hard enough. 10 clearances for him. But the issue is that with the Suns, there's too little, too few doing actually the work. So Anderson and Miller, normally you would have, Raul, who was quiet and had 12 touches but 7 tackles. Leaving it to too few. Now, they're not as dynamic in that midfield mix. Now, Anderson and Miller killed it this week, but where's the mix-up? They stick with the same few, and if someone's not performing, let's say like Raul, well, Raul kind of only can play in that mix anyway. He's a CBA midfielder. So if he's not doing well, it's kind of hard to try and change him up because where are you going to put him? So for the Suns, I thought it was very interesting for that fact. A few people that just didn't perform, didn't contribute, and the game got away with them. And the Saints definitely got them on the spread. So it's a little bit disappointing, I think, after a win last week to be beaten by 53 points. And that's what we kind of know Gold Coast to be. They're not consistent. They take huge scalps, but then almost go, oh, it's all going to happen now, and then it doesn't happen. So I know they're away from home this game here at Docklands, but it's the same, where they're going to knock off some really good people, but they'll never be a top 8 until they actually start to evenly contribute every week and just don't rely on 3 to 4 players. So that's pretty much that part. Benny Long only had 7 kicks, 2 handballs, kicked at 33%. So 33% disposal efficiency with 7 clangers. Now, if Constable tears up in the seconds, like I know he should and could, I would like to see Long go for Constable. Now, that's biased, obviously, but I'm thinking he didn't get much of the ball, right? You can't really get rid of Powell. You can't get rid of Weller. McPherson's killing his role as well. So there's a few other people that are doing really well in their role. So it pretty much comes down to Ben Long. Now, yeah, I mean, 7 clangers, 33% disposal efficiency, had some contested possessions, but didn't really do much with it. So 30 Supercoach, 30 Dream Team. So I think Constable could be one, possibly, to kick him out of his role. But again, just remember that now that Powell and Weller are in, even if Constable does come back into that side, he's not going to have that same friendly role he had previously. There won't be kickouts probably, and he probably won't get as many disposals because his role will be slightly different. So that's something to also consider going forward. Outside of that, Bailey Humphrey did have a debut, missed 2 goals. One of them I thought he definitely should have kicked right in front. He cooked it. So, interesting to sort of see him get his first game up. But, the whole Marshall thing. Oh, Marshall. I didn't tell you. I think, so he got subbed out. I told you that part. But the funny part is that even in the post-game presser, so Marshall subbed out. Don't be concerned. He's not injured. Pretty much the game was done and the coach is like, well, we're going to put the Q in the rack and we're just going to rest him. So Marshall's doing a lot of the brunt of the work at the moment. So it was a luxury. They just rested him. And when they asked Ross Lyon about it, he said, look, we probably would have rested him at 3/4 time, but we didn't really want to get too cute with it because, you don't want to kind of disrespect your opponent, but also, you're not quite sure on how the opposition will start. So they waited for the 4th quarter to start and went, no, everything looks the same. Nothing's really going to change here, and then subbed him out of the game. So Marshall, not injured, just a tactical rest, mainly because Witts was out. So funny that Witts is out and people go, oh, yes, Marshall's tailing up, and then he gets subbed. So classic Lion for that one. That's it from me. I didn't even get to have much of this great stuff. I'm going to give it a little shout out to the Bushmills Burgundy Cask, which is my Saturday night little treat watching footy, doing a little bit of this stuff here for you. Let me know if you like this series, and let me know if you did make Captain Marshall like the centre bounce, and or what you're planning on doing with Marshall. Are you trying to go up to maybe Witts when he comes back in, or English if you haven't got him already? They're pretty much the only options because everyone's been injured. Gorn injured, Witts has missed a game now, Cameron's injured, Marshall's spotting up, which means it's pretty much English, and maybe Marshall if you can deal with it. If you don't have Grundy, Grundy coming up might be all right for a 3-4 week period, and get back on Witts, I guess, if you don't have him already. Hopefully he names next week. Apparently tightness, a bit of soreness. Sore 4 weeks in, come on. Painful for everyone. That's it. That's me. Talk to you soon. Stay tuned. The Sydney Swans one as well. Absolute cracker, by the way. Sydney Swans, if you don't know, coming up soon. Talk to you soon. Bye.